welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So whether you are prepping for a massive corporate restructure, or you are just trying to get a stubbornly stalled small group project off the ground, there's a very good chance you have faced the exact same nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
I am talking about the dreaded bottleneck.
Right. The absolute worst.
We have all been trapped in that massive soul-crushing email thread. You know the one.
With like 14 people CC'd.
Exactly. 14 people CC'd, and everyone is just waiting for a vice president who is currently on vacation in Cabo to approve a, $50 software license.
And all progress just abruptly halts.
Yes. The inbox fills up with people asking for status updates, and everyone just sits around waiting for someone else to make a call.
It completely drains the momentum right out of a team. And honestly, worse than that, it actively trains your employees to stop taking initiative.
Because why bother, right?
Exactly. When an organization gets stuck in that holding pattern, you aren't just losing time. You are conditioning the creative energy and the drive right out of the people you brought together in the first place.
They learn very quickly that trying to move fast only leads to administrative punishment.
Yeah, you get slapped on the wrist for trying to do your job.
Which brings us perfectly to the source material we are unpacking today.
It is a great piece.
It really is. We have a highly practical article from the management and creative firm Stellapop. It is titled From Individualists to Warriors: How Leaders Can Build a Resilient Team from an Ex-Marine Officer.
A fascinating read.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how civilian leaders can actually adopt a veteran military mindset to eliminate that toxic delegate-up habit.
Right.
We are looking at how to build teams that do not crumble under pressure, and ultimately how leaders can learn to just get out of their own way.
And I know adapting high-stakes, life-or-death military strategies to everyday business operations might sound like a dramatic thought experiment to some.
It does sound a bit intense.
It does, but it is actually a fundamental survival mechanism for modern companies. The corporate landscape today is defined by constant, unpredictable change.
Yeah.
And those legacy hierarchical structures simply cannot process information fast enough to keep up.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We should start with the phrase that serves as the foundation for this entire philosophy.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
That's the one. You have probably seen it slapped on a bumper sticker, or maybe printed in bold, aggressive letters on a motivational poster at your gym.
Oh yeah, next to the water fountain.
Right. It skyrocketed into pop culture thanks to Clint Eastwood's 1986 film Heartbreak Ridge.
Classic.
But long before it was a Hollywood catchphrase delivered with a cinematic scowl, it was a vital survival philosophy for the United States Marine Corps.
What's fascinating here is that the core reality behind this motto has absolutely nothing to do with cinematic heroics.
Not at all.
It is rooted in a very stark, uncomfortable truth. You are rarely, if ever, going to have the resources you actually need.
Which is terrifying for a project manager.
Terrifying, but true. You will not have the perfect amount of time, the perfect operating budget, or perfect intelligence on your competitors. So resourcefulness is not just a nice-to-have corporate buzzword that looks good on a company's career page.
Right.
In this context, it is mission critical. It is the literal foundation of doing more with less.
That brings us to the primary expert featured in our source material, retired Marine Colonel Jeff Fultz.
Right, Fultz.
He spent 30 years in the Marine Corps before transitioning into civilian operations leadership. And just imagine the culture shock there.
Must have been massive.
You spend 3 decades in the mud, operating in environments where failure has lethal consequences, and then you walk into a sterile corporate boardroom where people are panicking over a delayed PowerPoint deck.
A totally different universe.
Fultz's primary mission when he made that jump was bringing this exact do more with less mindset to civilian teams, because he noticed they tend to completely fall apart the second their original plan fails.
And the original plan is always going to fail, at least in some capacity.
Always.
That is the one guarantee in both combat and business strategy. Fultz understood that a leader cannot prevent the plan from breaking, but they can drastically change how the people react when the fracture happens.
And that reaction depends entirely on how the team was built from the ground up, starting on day one.
Exactly.
But we are raised in a system that inherently rewards the individual. Think about traditional corporate incentive structures.
Individual objectives and key results.
Isolated performance reviews. Stack ranking, where employees are graded against their peers. The entire business world essentially trains employees to optimize for their own promotions, their own bonuses, and looking out for number one.
Rather than prioritizing the survival of the team.
Exactly. The Stella Pop article points out that Americans naturally approach teamwork as individualists.
Which presents a massive challenge for any leader trying to build resilience. You cannot just program human nature out of people.
No, you can't.
The brilliant aspect of the Marine Corps methodology is that they do not attempt to erase that intense individualism. They redirect it.
Oh, so?
The very first phase of their training is heavily focused on stripping down that individual identity. Through uniforms, haircuts, shared punishments, shared routines, all to establish a collective mindset they call unit cohesion.
So you stop being just you.
Right. They put you in situations where you realize, very viscerally, that your success and your physical survival depend entirely on the person standing next to you.
Let me play devil's advocate here, though. I can hear a lot of managers listening right now thinking, I run a mid-sized accounting firm. I cannot shave my employees' heads and make them run obstacle courses in the mud at 4 a.m.
Nor should you.
So how does a civilian leader actually create those shared stakes without relying on extreme military tactics?
You do it by fundamentally changing what gets rewarded and what gets punished in the office. Think about it. If a major product launch fails, but the lead software developer still gets their maximum quarterly bonus because they technically hit their personal coding metrics, you do not have shared stakes.
You just have a group of individualists sharing a desk.
Exactly. Creating unit cohesion in a corporate environment means restructuring the incentives so that the team wins together or loses together. You tie the bonuses to the overall project success.
That makes a lot of sense.
And once they truly understand that the collective success is their personal success, the Marines execute a brilliant pivot. They start training these individuals to make independent decisions again.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It is a massive pipeline of transformation. Me to we to me again.
Yes.
They start as individualists looking out for themselves. They're broken down into team players looking out for each other. And then they're built back up into autonomous decision makers who are acting for something far bigger than themselves.
You are cultivating an independent decision maker who does not need to be micromanaged. They have the skills, they have the knowledge, and most importantly, they have the judgment to act without asking for permission.
Why? Because they fundamentally understand the overarching mission?
Right, and they know their personal success is tied directly to achieving it.
But hold on, if we are just telling junior employees to act without waiting for permission, aren't we just breeding a culture of rogue employees doing whatever they want? How do you balance that kind of rugged resourcefulness with actual corporate compliance?
It is a valid concern, but the key distinction is alignment, not anarchy.
Alignment.
The goal isn't to have people running off in random directions. The goal is to have people who deeply understand the strategy, so when they hit a roadblock, they can improvise a solution that still serves the primary objective.
I see.
If you have done the work of building unit cohesion and establishing shared stakes, they aren't going rogue for personal glory. They are taking calculated risks to save the project.
And if you are trusting younger team members to make the call, it completely changes how you view failure.
Absolutely.
In the military, failing to adapt isn't just a missed key performance indicator. It is lethal. The Stella Pop article features a jarring quote from Lieutenant Colonel William Kerrigan, a battalion commander with the 2nd Marine Division.
Let's hear it.
He says, "The future fight is fast and will require leaders to adapt and make decisions quickly. The luxury of time simply does not exist."
Marines frequently find themselves in impossible positions with heavily limited resources, incredibly unclear intel, and weather or enemy conditions that are changing by the hour.
Just total chaos.
Exactly. If you sit around waiting for step-by-step instructions from a superior officer while you are in a combat zone, the results are catastrophic. You have to assess the situation, adjust your approach, and move.
The plan fell apart. You make a new one immediately.
You are short on supplies. You get extraordinarily creative.
And in the civilian world, market shifts, mass layoffs, and obsolete product lines are the life and death of a business.
Right.
Nobody is dodging literal artillery in a Tuesday morning marketing sink, but the stakes are still existential for the company's survival.
Oh, for sure. Think about corporate giants like Blockbuster or Kodak.
Prime examples.
They had all the resources, all the talent, and dominant market shares. But they waited for higher-ups to approve strategic changes while the entire world shifted to digital streaming and photography right beneath them.
A comprehensive, beautifully designed corporate strategy that a team spends 6 months perfecting is very often totally outdated the exact moment it arrives in the marketplace.
That brings us to the primary target Jeff Fultz identified when he transitioned into civilian operations. He saw a corporate culture paralyzed by something the article calls the delegate-up disease.
Delegate-up.
It is the insistence that every minor decision, every pivot, and every unbudgeted expense has to climb the corporate ladder until a senior executive makes the final call.
It is the ultimate bottleneck. But again, in highly regulated industries like finance or healthcare, if a manager doesn't attend those meetings and CC themselves on those emails, things slip through the cracks, compliance is breached, and their head is on the chopping block.
Right.
Is pushing decisions down really practical when the legal stakes are that high?
There is a massive difference between necessary legal compliance and false empowerment.
False empowerment.
You see so many civilian leaders who loudly claim they want empowered teams in their town halls, but then insist on weighing in on the font choices for an internal slide deck.
Oh, we have all seen that.
Or reviewing the catering menu for a client meeting.
Yep.
That isn't compliance or quality control. It is red tape disguised as leadership.
So true.
When a leader behaves this way, they turn themselves into the single point of failure for their own organization. Nothing can happen unless they are in the room to nod their head.
The solution proposed by Fultz and Kerrigan requires a massive surrender of ego from the leader. You have to push decision-making down to the absolute lowest levels possible. You provide them with the intel they need, ensure they deeply understand the overarching mission, and then, and this is the part most managers really choke on, you actually trust them to act on it without your oversight.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to prove that this isn't just a theoretical fantasy, the Stella Pop article shares a genuinely staggering fact about how the Marines operate daily.
This blew my mind.
The vast majority of day-to-day decisions are heavily handled by corporals, and the average age of a corporal is about 22 years old.
22. In the corporate world, we barely trust a 22-year-old to order the catering for a lunch and learn without a manager reviewing the receipt.
Let alone make a mission-critical pivot in the middle of a high-stakes operation.
Exactly.
The key isn't their age, though. It is how they are prepared for the moment. As the article points out, these corporals are essentially trained babies. But the operative word there is trained.
Right.
They are operating within a deeply entrenched culture that provides crystal clear parameters. The military doesn't just hand a 22-year-old a loaded weapon, point them at a problem, and say, go figure it out.
Good luck.
They run them through endless, grueling simulations.
Paint that picture for us. What does that training actually look like compared to a corporate onboarding process?
Imagine a young corporal running a mock supply convoy. A simulated, improvised, explosive device goes off, the lead vehicle is disabled, and the corporal freezes in a panic.
Which is a natural reaction.
Completely. The exercise ends, but the real work begins during the debriefing. The commanding officers don't just yell at them, they break down the scenario forensically.
What did you see? Why did you freeze?
What were your options? And they do this hundreds of times in safe environments so that when the real chaos hits, the critical thinking is pure muscle memory.
A corporate manager trying to replicate this needs to build a similar training environment. You can't just verbally declare your junior staff is empowered, walk away, and hope for the best.
No, that's a recipe for disaster.
You have to run the simulations. You let them manage a low-stakes project entirely on their own. When they inevitably stumble or launch a campaign that flops, you don't swoop in, take the project back, and yell at them for ruining the quarter.
Right.
You sit down, you debrief the failure, you course-correct the logic, and you send them back in to try again.
And if we are asking managers to hand over the keys to the car, that means we have to seriously rethink who we are letting in the vehicle in the first place.
The hiring process.
You can't just hire the way you always have if you want a team that operates like those empowered corporals. You have to actively warn yourself against selecting candidates purely for their corporate polish or a flawless pedigree.
A pristine resume from a top-tier university does not mean a candidate knows how to handle chaos.
Not at all.
So what does that actually look like in a standard interview process? A lot of people can fake being a gritty go-getter during a 30-minute Zoom interview when they know the questions in advance.
Yeah.
How do you uncover genuine resourcefulness before you hire them?
You change the questions to force them into a scenario of scarcity.
Scarcity, okay.
Instead of asking the standard, what are your greatest strengths? Or tell me about a time you led a team
Those are so rehearsed.
Exactly.
Right.
Instead, you ask, tell me about a time your project budget was slashed in half 2 weeks before launch, and you still had to deliver the same result. What did you do?
Oh, that's a great question.
You are looking for people who don't just complain about the lack of resources, but who instinctively start trying to solve the problem with whatever is lying around.
True problem solvers do not sit around waiting for perfect conditions to start working. They are entirely comfortable being wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
But the Stella Pop article makes a crucial point. You don't just want a team entirely composed of gut instinct cowboys who shoot from the hip.
Right, that would be chaotic.
The most resilient units have a carefully calibrated mix of personalities. You need those gut instinct leaders who can make a snap judgment in a crisis. Absolutely. But you also need the highly analytical, data-driven thinkers who can map out the logistics and ensure that snap judgment actually works on the ground.
This raises an important question about culture, though. Once you have hired this perfectly balanced, resourceful team, how do you ensure they stay that way?
Yeah.
Resilient teams are not simply born by putting 5 smart people in a Slack channel. They are built through shared expectations and leaders who walk the talk.
Right. If you tell an employee they are empowered, but then you severely punish them the first time they make a resourceful, well-intentioned decision that doesn't pan out perfectly, you have instantly destroyed that resilience.
Immediately.
They will immediately revert back to delegating up to protect themselves from your wrath.
Survival instinct kicks right back in.
So what does this all mean? If we distill everything from the Stella Pop article into the most vital, actionable item for you, the listener, it comes down to providing the compass. And that compass is the word why.
The why.
Your team members must understand the why behind their tasks. It is never enough to just hand out a step-by-step to-do list.
Because a to-do list is incredibly fragile. If step 3 is blocked by an unforeseen problem, the employee stops working and waits for new instruction.
They become paralyzed.
But if they understand the ultimate purpose of the mission, the reason the to-do list exists in the first place, they can bypass step 3 entirely and find another way to achieve the goal.
It's the difference between a task-oriented team and a purpose-oriented team.
Exactly. If the task is build a bridge over the river and the river dries up, the task-oriented team keeps building the bridge.
Because that was the task.
Right. But the purpose-oriented team, whose why is cross the terrain, simply walks across the dry riverbed and saves a month of work.
Which brings us to a wonderfully blunt reality check from the source material. You have to give them the why, because the original plan is always going to fail.
Always.
Acknowledging that isn't being pessimistic or expecting the worst from your team. The article sums up this reality with a phrase I absolutely love. That's just Tuesday.
That's just Tuesday. Expecting the plan to break is simply the baseline reality of any dynamic environment.
It's a given.
When you normalize failure as a part of the process, it takes the panic out of the equation. It is no longer a crisis. It is just a Tuesday.
And managing that Tuesday effectively leads us to the ultimate takeaway principle from this entire deep dive. The article presents a golden rule of organizational speed. Your organization moves at the speed of your slowest approval process.
Let that sink in for a moment. You could have the most talented, expensive roster of employees in your industry. You could spend millions on the fastest new workflow software.
All the agile consultants mapping out your quarters.
Exactly. But your entire team is firmly tethered to the speed of whoever insists on signing off on every little detail.
Yep. If you are a manager demanding to review every draft before it ships, you are the bottleneck holding back your own company's success.
It represents a fundamental shift in how we view leadership. It forces you to stop trying to control every variable, which is impossible anyway, and start focusing on equipping your team to handle the chaos themselves.
You transition from a commander issuing orders to an architect designing an environment where good decisions can happen autonomously.
Beautifully said.
Let's pull all of these threads together. We started by exploring how to take natural-born individualist people trained by corporate America to chase their own performance metrics and redirect them into cohesive units with shared stakes.
Right.
We talked about replacing the toxic delegate-up habit with the kind of rigorous simulation training that allows you to trust a 22-year-old with mission-critical decisions.
The trained babies.
Exactly. We looked at how to revamp your interview process to screen for gritty resourcefulness rather than just a polished resume. And finally, we discuss why giving your team the why allows you to remove yourself as the bottleneck entirely.
The transition from individualist to warrior isn't about aggression. It is about accountability. It is about building a team that refuses to let the mission fail, even when the resources dry up and the initial plan is thrown out the window.
So here is a direct challenge to you for the week ahead. Take a hard look at your inbox, your calendar, and your project management boards.
Really look at them.
Ask yourself, where are you demanding a formal memo or scheduling a mandatory sync-up meeting when you should actually be empowering action? Where are you forcing your highly capable team to wait for your nod?
It happens more than you think.
It is time to aggressively train their judgment, deeply trust the people you hired, and get out of their way.
And I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to ponder on your own based on the material we've covered today. We have spent this entire time talking about how leaders need to step back, surrender their ego, and empower their teams. But ask yourself this. What if you aren't the leader? What if your boss is the ultimate bottleneck? If an organization moves only as fast as its slowest approval process, how do you use these Marine Corps principles to tactfully manage up?
Oh, manage it.
How do you practically force your own leadership to give you the autonomy you need without them even realizing you are doing it?
That is the million-dollar question right there.
Yeah.
If you can crack that code, you can build a resilient, high-impact career in absolutely any environment, no matter who is sitting in the corner office. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the survival tactics of modern teams. Remember, keep questioning, keep learning, and above all, keep adapting.